Yo, what's up? Desmond here, and welcome back to Video Weekly. All right, so I'm gonna keep this video super simple. So many people ask me how I set up my sessions, what my vocal chain is, and what I'm gonna do for you guys is start from scratch. I have a blank session right here, and I'm gonna build it with you guys so you guys can take whatever you want from it. I'm working in Studio One, but of course this works on any DAW. So let's get started. So first off, what I'm going to do is add all of the tracks that I'm going to need. Of course, once you start recording, you can start duplicating tracks and, just to accommodate for whatever your needs are. So here I'm going to go to add tracks, just type in tracks, and I'm going to have one track for the instrumental. This is for typical artists who just drag in a wave instrumental or anything like that. So we're going to have one track for that. I need a track for leads, so that's 2. And I'm going to have just 2 background tracks. So in total, that's about 4 tracks. We're going to make it mono, and yeah. Okay, so I always name all of my tracks just because I'm an organized person. So track 1, I'm going to type in instrumental. Second track, lead. Third track, background, or usually I do BGV. And then for the last one, BGV2. All right, so let's bring up the inspector. All right, so now that we have the audio tracks, what we need to do is add the buses. So down here, you go to mix, right click, and add bus channel. So we're gonna have one bus for, let's do that for the leads. Another bus for background vocals, BGV. Now usually I type in backgrounds for here. All right, I'm gonna bring this all the way over here. I'm gonna bring this here. All right, so now we have to route it. So over here on the lead track, go to the inspector, click main, then you select the lead bus. And then for the background vocals, you can highlight both of them and do the same thing with the backgrounds. What I typically do is I go to the SSL channel by Waves, of course. Bring that. So what I'm going to do with this SSL channel is go right here to where it says in, and I'm just going to bring this down to probably around like -10. So the reason why I trim about -10 dBs on all of my tracks is because, once you start adding more and more tracks, everything tends to start peaking in your master, So although each track individually might not be peaking, collectively they are. That gives me enough headroom for when I'm mixing. So now I'm going to copy that SSL channel to all of the other tracks. Highlight all of them, just drag it. Boom, there it is. All right, really quickly, I'm going to color code these tracks because it just makes everything so much easier. So I usually make my background vocals green. Usually make my leads red. And the instrumental, I usually make it white. And that's that. All right, so now the fun part. Real quick, let's add these buses to the multi-track window. Makes it just a lot easier. All right, so now for the fun part. So for the leads, I typically add a de-esser first. Boom. This frequency is cool just to start off. And this is the Waves de-esser. I usually go with wide. All right, so now just bring the threshold down a little bit, This all changes once you start recording, all right? This is just my basic settings, all right? All right, so now after the de-esser, we need EQ. I typically go for the API 560. It's really good for vocals. You can honestly just use a preset. I usually turn off the analog because that just adds some unnecessary hiss. It's cool, if you're really going for that analog sound, but for modern music, I usually turn it off. And I mean, this is cool. You can set it once you start recording, like I said. And what I've been using a lot lately is the CLA 76 because of the attack time. You can really punch that thing. It's really, really good for rap vocals, and it's really good for, pretty much anything. So you can play around with this. And if you don't really know how to set this compressor, just use one of the presets that they have right here, because they really sound good. It gives you a really good starting place. So in terms of lead vocals, that's pretty much it. In this SSL channel, other than just trimming the overall volume down to -10, you can tweak some of these settings right here, like the roll off. For vocals, I usually go to around like 120. You can bring down some of the frequencies that might not be suitable for lead vocals. That's pretty much it. You guys might be wondering why I didn't add the plugins to the lead bus, but the reason why is because I really don't like sending multiple lead tracks to one compressor or one EQ, because, you know, it starts overloading the plugins. So it's just better to have all of those plugins individually on the tracks, and trust me, it just sounds better. Oh yeah, one other thing, in terms of pitch corrector, go to the Waves Tune real time, actually. Boom. I usually add the pitch corrector at the end of the chain, but you know, it's up to you. It really doesn't matter. Waves Tune real time is super simple. All you have to do is find whatever key you're singing in. You choose whether it's major or minor, and then you just set the key. The less the speed is, the more noticeable the pitch corrector is going to be, and as well as the note transition, you can mess with this. It's super important to select the range that you're singing in, because it allows the pitch corrector to know what notes to have you at. So if you're singing tenor, you're not going to select soprano, because it's going to have a harder time trying to track those notes. All right, so for background vocals, I typically tend to add a CLA 2A to each individual track. That way, I do this so once I start panning the background tracks, each track will, you know, be compressed at a certain volume, so everything feels more balanced. It's really hard to set the peak reduction without, you know, having audio, but you know, I typically try to keep that needle at around -2 and -3, you know, just something real subtle. And now I'm going to copy the CLA 2A to the second background track. And in terms of panning, I usually pan hard left and hard right. All right, so in terms of the background bus, I do like to add plugins directly to it. That way I can treat all of those harmonies as if they were recorded all in one room. All right, so for the background bus, the first thing I usually add is a de-esser, just like the lead vocals, but make sure you select stereo, because, you know, you got panning going on. So you add that. For the EQ, 560 is fine, or whatever EQ you want to use. If you don't know how to set it, just go to voice and background box, turn off the analog. All right, and now we have to add a compressor. So I'm going to go to the CLA 76. I really like using the CLA 76 on background vocals, because you can really control the dynamics of them. So yeah, that's why I have that here. And just go to vocal. All right, and lastly, my secret to getting background vocals to feel fuller is the Waves doubler, or you can go to 4. Boom. I usually turn off the direct because we're using this as a send effect. Okay, and if you look under the sends on the background bus, you'll see a control fader to that effect. So with the send level, you can control how loud this effect is going to be. All right. And just so you can be more organized, you can type in doubler. Boom. All right, so now all we need is 2 more effect tracks. Reverb and delay. All right, so I'm going to use the H reverb. That's like my go-to reverb for pretty much everything. And over here, I'm going to go to H delay. Boom. All right, so for the delay, honestly, I have multiple delays, so I'm going to show you that. So I have one H delay for 1/4. So I type in 1/4 down here, and I add another one, drag it over. I'll make this one 1/8. Type that down here. And last one is half notes. Boom. All right, for all of the H delays, I turn on this setting called lo-fi. So basically what that does is roll off all of the highs and it makes it just sound a lot sweeter. Of course, you can control that manually right here on the low filters, but that's just a quick way to do it. As well as I turn on ping pong. The ping pong setting basically makes it so your delays is bouncing from left to right. It sounds really, really good. It gives your delays just like a three-dimensional feel. All right, so lo-fi, ping pong. I did that for all of them. So on the lead track, you go ahead and press reverb and you add all of the delays. That's what I do, but I turn all of them off because I automate all of my delays. That way you don't just have delays constantly going through, you know, the track while your vocalist is singing. So basically what I do is right click on the bypass button, go to mute, and basically on the end of a word or a phrase or anything like that, I'll turn it on. So if you press play, you'll see it. Boom, it turns on, then it turns off. And then you do the same thing with the background track. Add your reverb, turn it down. Boom, boom, boom. All right. One thing also about the delays, I turn off the analog because especially once you start adding multiple H delays and having that analog setting on, like the hiss gets out of control. So yeah, make sure you turn that off. All right, and last but not least, on the main track, I usually add a GW mix-centric. I did a whole entire video on this plugin and it just really adds like a sparkle to your mix. It glues everything together. It's just some magic that goes on behind this plugin right here. And lastly, I just add an L1 limiter. I typically bring the ceiling down to -0.3, and I base the threshold amount on the overall volume of the session. But one thing, while you're recording, make sure you have these plugins turned off, because if you don't, you're gonna have a massive delay. All right, there's one more track that I forgot to add, phone. So many people ask me about how I set up my phone track. So it's super simple. You can really just add the same plugins from the leads over to it. Like literally, the same ones. And boom. All right, go to the phone track. And you can use it pretty much any EQ. So I'm gonna use the Pro EQ that's in Studio One. Go to here, miss, telephone. I usually bring this down a little bit because sometimes it just be a little bit too harsh. I add this EQ typically right before the compressor. And what I'll do is make this track stereo. All right, and after that, this is the secret. Go to motion, type in motion. All right. This plugin right here is by Waves. It's called Brower Motion. And this is how I get my phone effect to go from left to right. You know, it's an auto panner and it's really, really good. It's pretty much set up already. And that's pretty much it. Once you start recording, the track automatically is going to be panning left to right. And it's the best thing in the world. You don't have to do any automation or nothing. All right, guys, this is it. This is my template that I start with every time I'm about to record something. And now you guys have it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you're interested in any of the plugins that I spoke about, then make sure you use my custom link that's in the description. If you're not subscribed already, make sure you subscribe. All right, I'm gonna check y'all later. Peace out.